All right, it's still okay. Oh, there we are. We're on YouTube.
Hey. Okay.
All right, it's still okay. Oh, there we are. We're on YouTube. Oh.
Hey.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. People are still joining. We have about 10 here, about 45 people registered. But we are here with Joye Braun, Waniya Locke, and Kimimila Locke. And I think Honorata Defender is coming soon.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to start. I feel like weird introducing you guys. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Go ahead.
Joy, go, please.
Wambly weka we imachi happy. Chante washte na pe chiuza happy. It's good to see all of you. I greet you all today with a hearty handshake. Peto washte you happy. I hope you guys all have a really good day. I'm a Cheyenne River Sioux tribal member, and I answered the call when the grassroots from Standing Rock called and asked for help from experienced water protectors, pipeline fighters. So that's why I'm here. Niche.
Ami taki api chante washte na pe cheese api Kimimila and Machi api na la koma chaje gia traeta na wikchak chijuwi. Wak ian waslota hemata ha na wakbala elwati. Mitrankala Wayeki Waniya Locke. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. Happy 200th anniversary of Baha'u'llah's passing. It's pretty remarkable. So I'm glad that we're honoring that event. It's I feel like there's no disconnect, and it's all connected with everything that's happened here on Standing Rock, and everything that's the ripple effects that have continued, and then all leading, culminating, and then of course it will continue with the 200th anniversary and everything that's coming. So I was out in Chicago recently, and we had Hussein and I were talking. We had a lot of conversations about the beginning, and just so that's kind of how this organically happened. Initially they wanted me to talk, and I was like, but I wasn't there, I wasn't there until the summer. So I wanted to bring in my sisters and my cousins because they were there. So
Hamidaki api Waniya amachi api ian waslata hemata ha wakbala ekta imacha khe mini shosheki agwagwa washkate. Like when I was a little girl, I grew up playing along the Missouri River. I am from Standing Rock, and I grew up in Wakbala area. I guess you could say I identify as a Baha'i, but I'm extremely inactive. And my extent is only to I believe that Baha'u'llah was here, and I believe that Baha'u'llah brought many teachings, and that we do need to abide by them. However, I always just really distance myself from the faith because of other Baha'is, and that's why I personally stepped away. It was because of other Baha'is within the community, and I've been really inactive in the Baha'i faith. But because of me being inactive, I got really proactive in Lakhotiapi, getting into our language and documenting our history, especially our oral history and our songs, and being able to teach it to our younger generations. And so that's how I got tapped in. I was tapped in by my sister Honorata. I was currently living on Pine Ridge at the time, so I used to commute from Pine Ridge to Standing Rock, and I would commute that all the time for no DAPL meetings in the very beginning, all the way from February of 2016 all the way until we had federal removal, and now we're currently doing the divestment campaign.
We're supposed to just keep talking?
Well, no.
Well, can you explain how like all the no DAPL camps started, and then how you got involved?
Like I said, I was tapped in by Honorata Defender. She contacted me. She writes for a local paper, and she got documentation that these permits were granted, and there was no consultation with the tribe, and that there was no no consultation whatsoever, and there was no environmental impact statement, and there was no even at that time, at the very beginning of us standing up, there was not even an assessment done. So they didn't even have an assessment, and these permits were already granted. And so she contacted myself and Joy around the same time, and that's when I started coming up. It was actually Joy and Dallas Goldtooth, who are both with Indigenous Environmental Network. They really primed me, and they helped me write the first PR in opposition of Dakota Access, and that was announcing that we were opening camp and that we were having a horseback ride from Fort Yates into Cannonball, so that we were going to leave from the tribal building and ride all the way up to Cannonball and to do the opening of camp.
Well, I think also you have to remember that there was a lot of groundwork that happened first. There was, so Ani and everybody found out the same way everybody else found out. There was a newspaper article in February of 2014. And actually, Waniya and Kimmy's mom messaged me that day and said, "What are you going to do about it?" Well, what can you do when Dorothy Locke says, "What are you going to do about it?" And then Ani started getting hold of us and asking, who do we call? But there was a lot of work that was done before that. So there was meetings in some of the different communities. Community meetings, because you don't just open a camp. This is really important. You don't just open a camp. You don't just go in and say, "Hey, I'm here to save you." Well, that's that savior mentality. And we as Baha'is are told that we can't do that no more. You can't do that no more. So you have to go in and work with the community, and you have to visit with them and consult with them. And we have a different perspective on what consultation means. And what Nia is talking about there was no consultation with the tribes. You have to remember that there was a UNIDRIP where the UN says that we have free, prior, informed consent. But before that, we have the treaties. We have the 1851 treaty, and we have the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, and there's other treaties that are involved. But this is treaty land. This is our land. This is our homelands. And so there's treaty law involved. And part of that is that they are supposed to be consulting with the tribes. That doesn't mean listening sessions. That doesn't mean following their regulations and, "Oh, I heard you." No, that means that they have to listen to the tribes too. But that wasn't going on. And so there was Waniya helped to write that first press release. And there was this big horse ride that happened. And we had been invited to camp on out by Cannonball. And so we opened camp on April 1st.
Yeah, so I do have to agree that you just can't open up camp. There is definitely in community meetings. The first community meeting was held in McLaughlin, South Dakota. I was not present at that meeting. I was actually Skyped in, and my brother John Edwards, he was the one that Skyped me in, and so that's how I was able to just even listen in. I was not present then, and then it slowly started to grow, and then it went from McLaughlin to Fort Yates, and we had 2 meetings in Fort Yates, and then we had our 3rd and 4th meeting in Cannonball. And then finally, we just started rolling with it. Like, all right, we're actually going to stand up as a community. And that's one thing that really helped us was having these community meetings and going into each community, even though there's only 3 districts hit at that time, just having that consensus, like, hey, we want to do something. This is our water. and we need to protect all these people's drinking water. And that made a huge difference. It's getting that local support, and that's really vital, is having local community support.
How many people started out at first?
There was, at that first meeting, it was about 15, 18 people, that very first meeting. And then it would fluctuate. Sometimes we had 20, 25 at different meetings. And in Cannonball, we couldn't get into the meeting hall, so we met in the parking lot. we just went ahead and met. And it's important to just do what needs to be done.
And of those people, how many were Baha'i?
Oh, geez. About 7 or 8, which is pretty darn good for on the reservation.
Yeah. It really is. It really is. So.
A lot of them inactive. I mean, like, don't necessarily go to feast or Baha'i events. Because like what Waniya had said, a lot of people stepped away because of other Baha'is, other non-native Baha'is. And but that's part of that growth process. I really absolutely believe that the Mini Wichoni movement is part of Baha'u'llah's plan, because we did go to ceremonies, but it's going out and it's changing people's ideas and views of how to interact with one another, how to build those relationships. And it was scary, but it was very real. It was very, very real. A lot of those discussions that we had in camp about how do we deal with allies? How do we deal with people who are non-native? Where we talked a lot about white privilege, talked a lot about white tears and white splaining. And those are discussions that need to happen within the Baha'i community as well. Mm-hmm. And but those, we got real life, real world experience with learning how to deal with developing relationships with people from across the world.
Yeah, social structure. It's definitely about social structure, and that's one thing that was really cool about camp, is like everything that Joye is saying is like 100% true, because because we were defined the governing system. We couldn't have, like, we had to deal with the rape cases that occurred in camp. We had to deal with white fragility that was in our face. We had to deal with the racism from our side, both ways, going back and forth. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have a mediator, and we had to figure out this social structure together. And that was something that was really, really raw and really, really real about camp. And it opened up doors to have discussions. Even so, like, our Two-Spirit Society has always been a part of like Wo Lakota for us as Lakota people. But mainstream society really, really likes to shun homosexuality and transgender and queers, and for us it was really common in our society, in our traditional historical upbringings. But it wasn't until camp where they formally had an actual grand entry, where they were actually brought back into society and be like, we are part of you guys. We are human beings. We are your brother and sisters. And I found that really empowering to break down that door, because
it was empowering. It was healing.
Yeah.
It was just powerful. And it was one of the best camps in camp.
No,
it really did. It really, really was.
The Two-Spirit camp, it was the cleanest. They had the best food, and their infighting in their community just stayed within their community. It
didn't go out
the rest of the camp, and I really liked that.
Yeah, so I was living in Denver when all this was kicking off. I just moved home this summer, so I was living in Denver, and you know, my mom and my sister, they were at those beginning meetings, and you know, my cousins, like I said, and I got a call, and my mom said it's happening again. It's happening again, and I'm gonna try not to get emotional saying this, but so growing up, we spent. My mother's from Alaska. She's Alaska Native, Athabaskan Dene, and so every summer we spent going to Alaska, and I would, you know, like when I was young, I always used to wonder why people took vacations in Alaska, because for us, we went up to Alaska to work. We went up to, you know, to work at fish camp, you know, to, you know, pull in the fish, to cut, dry. Like, because every night, the way we fish, we use a big fishing wheel, which is basically a net that's turned by wheels. And we used to catch 200-300 fish a night. And that one fishing wheel would feed an extended family. So my mom is at one point, she was one of 13 siblings. So the first cousins, like there's our immediate family is pretty big in Alaska. And basically I always say I'm related to Central Alaska. Like the whole of Central Alaska, they were, you know, connected somehow. So this one fishing wheel used to feed, for the winter, used to feed about 60 of us. But we would catch between 200 and 300 fish a night. And that's what we did all summer long for 3 months, June, July, August. All we did was, you know, go out, cut dry fish. And, you know, like that's like, as a kid, I remember carrying fish and handing it up, and that's all we did. So until the 1990 Valdez oil spill, our diet was subsistent. You know, we had moose, caribou. We went out and picked blueberries. You know, we made jam. We canned. We did all of that. You know, in Alaska, we didn't have running water until the early 90s. So, you know, we had to carry the rifle out to the outhouse. So, you know, like we went up to Alaska to work and to join our family and to work. And, you know, and we lived here on Standing Rock, but we spent our summers in Alaska. So we really didn't eat store-bought meat. We shipped home, like we dry ice all this, you know, all this moose, caribou. So we'd have the freezer full of all this meat. And that's what we ate for the entire winter. And then as we ran out, my aunties would, you know, send another shipment back. And then the oil spill happened. And it in our little world, that it changed everything for us. At that point, that's when we started having to go to Bismarck for shopping, or we'd have to travel to go shop, you know, to go buy food, and rather than have our aunties ship it to us. So we start eating, you know, the more processed food, the more store-bought food, and those things. Also the other big thing that happened. The other big thing that happened was dozens of our family members got cancer.
Including me.
Dozens of our family members got cancer, both my mom and my sister. But
and the reason why we have cancer is because it's a direct link to the fossil fuel industry. And it's not a myth. We can physically sit down and show you like where we lived at in Alaska, and then where our water intake was, and then showing off the runoff of this. So Alaska was really, really, really beautiful until the Valdez, and that was just one oil spill. That isn't including all the other oil spills that have occurred in Alaska, or the pipeline breaks that have occurred in Alaska, especially in the tundra area, which endangers like the caribou and but it had a huge effect on our animals. So the salmon, when she was talking about the salmon used to be like 5 feet tall or more. Mm-hmm. And like I remember them being taller than me. Mm-hmm. and taller than me now, not when I was a kid.
Yeah, we'd all carry it, like all of us, we'd have to carry. And we were kids. And yeah, there was 5, 6, I'm talking about king salmon, like 5, 6 feet tall, long salmon.
And then it just shrunk. And it was directly.
They would come up and they'd see tumors on the fish, and we physically like experienced this with it radically changed our lives. So in February 2016, I got a call. Like I said, I was living in Denver, and when they said it's happening again, like for us, it was very real, very real. And then I found out that where they were going to put the pipeline, it was supposed to go above, north of Bismarck, and then they switched it to just above a quarter of a mile north of the Standing Rock border. And we found out that when that pipeline breaks, there's no system to let us know. And like my sister and I keep gazing out, and we're looking at the water right here. It's like literally right outside our window here. And when that pipeline breaks, we have 40 minutes before it's coming out of our faucets. Before, like, our bodies will be the point of impact. That's how we'll know that there's oil in the water. So this wasn't like some lofty, like, we're not like the eco-terrorists. Like, and that was like the thing that kind of threw us for a loop, is that we were called jihadists, and we were called eco-terrorists, and we were just like all these like awful things that they called us and they did to us. But for our immediate family, this was very real, and we don't want to see this happen again. We don't want to have to go through another, losing our water source, and losing our access to our land, losing all the foods that we grew up on. Like my sister said, we grew up playing, like on the banks of the Missouri River, literally. Like my brother and I used to take our horses down and like go swim with them in the river. We had that childhood. We had like this awesome childhood where we'd go swimming all summer. In the winter, we take our cars and we tie sleds to it. We zip around on the ice, like driving across. So we have all these fond memories and real connection to the water, to the land, to each other. Like for us, there's no disconnect. And so, like I said, when I got that call, they said it's happening again. Like it sent me, and it sent my family, and it sent like the extended family, the community, like all of us that rose up. It literally sent us into a panic. Like we're not eco-terrorists. We're not eco-terrorists by any means. So I feel like I went off on a tangent there. But yeah.
So that's where we're at in our reality right now. Is it will take only 40 minutes to hit our water intake, but it'll take Joy's water intake 2 hours. So it's directly going to affect all of us. So it's because the Missouri River gives 17 million people drinking water, and 16 million people are south of this break of Dakota Access Pipeline.
Right. And so not only do I have to worry about Dakota Access, but now I got to worry about Keystone XL as well, because it's planning to go 0.08 miles just south of Cheyenne River near Bridger. And if it should break there, it'll hit the water intake in 33 minutes for Cheyenne River. So we're being affected by DAPL and KXL right now.
And the uranium pods.
And the uranium ponds, because they come down on Cheyenne River. Because if you test the water on the Cheyenne River right now, and there's radiation in there. And especially if you go down by Red Shirt and Red Scaffold, you're going to get contamination. So we're affected really bad. That's, and Standing Rock and Cheyenne River, we border one another. We're sister reservations, and we're related. up and down, Standing Rock, Cheyenne River were related all up and down. I mean, it's important to remember that Standing Rock, Cheyenne River, Pine Ridge, Rosebud, Sisseton, Crow Creek, Lower Brill, all these reservations, these Sioux reservations, they had to split us up. They had to, because that was the only way that they could try and defeat us, is by splitting us up.
And, they're still scared of us.
They're scared the heck of us, because we all came united together. And not only did all the great Sioux Nation come together, the Lakota, the Dakota, and the Nakota, but also, you know, like the Crow came and the Pawnee came. I remember when the Pawnee came into camp, I just looked at them and went, holy smokes, those guys are brave. And then I ended up camping near them. But it was, you know, we had all these tribes that came together, and they're terrified of that. So they did do a media blackout. And it was only through us doing Facebook Live and YouTube and videos and Twitter and whatever else we could do on social media. That's what got interest in the Standing Rock.
Yeah, definitely social media, because at that time, mainstream media, even local mainstream media, it was either media blackout or media propaganda. It was either or. There was nothing. Yep. There was nothing in between. The last clip that North Dakota media did that was unbiased was in March of 2016, and actually Joy's in it. That was the last time they did an unbiased. It was a real report.
Yeah, that was a real report, and that reporter has since moved. She's down in Baton Rouge now.
Yeah, she actually left in June of 2016. That reporter.
Yeah, she went to California, and then she just called me a little while ago, and down in Louisiana now, but she couldn't handle what was going on. And a lot of our reporters, a lot of our independent reporters, and even like Indian Country Today reporters and Democracy Now reporters, they were arrested and charged. So you didn't have your First Amendment rights. For those of you that are listening, I know a lot of you have heard this, but later on, when you go back over this, remember, you're not guaranteed your rights under the so-called United States government. Mm-hmm. Watch what's happening now. You know, and people ask, well, what can I do? What can I do? Well, learn as much as you can, and pray, definitely pray, but get out there and do something about it. You know, being a Baha'i, you have a just responsibility. You have a just responsibility to get up and stand up for what is right. We have that authority. That's a God-given authority that's given to us, and we have to stand up. Now is not the time for guns and weapons. That's why we always said we're in prayer. We can stand there in prayer, and the juxtaposition of them throwing rubber bullets, beanbags, tasers, tear gas, concussion grenades, all that, water cannons, everything that they did to us. They took those lessons and they're taking that around the country now. Yeah. But you can have candlelight vigils. You can go stand up and stand the line and say, I'm here for a just and right cause, and that's to protect the people and to advance the civilization in a prayerful, spiritual way.
Yeah, so my sister and my cousin Joy were at camp they were there, like, you know, on from the beginning. My daughter and I had injuries. My daughter tore her ACL, and I burned my hand. So we just had these like personal like calamities happen that neither of us were able to physically be there. So I personally didn't get to camp until July 29th, 2016. meanwhile, I was trying to be a keyboard warrior in between. I was like firing away, and I was messaging people, and like I've had the bounty of traveling to 46 countries, so I was tagging in as many people as I could, sending personal messages to people, just trying to get the word out, because we had a media blackout. So, and I'm not saying that was only me. I'm just saying that that's what I was doing, because my daughter and I were getting having surgery and going to the burn unit and all this stuff. So I got there July 29th, and I made, from July 29th until January 6th, I made over 20 trips home. I was teaching at the time, and I somehow managed to keep my full-time job as a teacher. And I would spend my weeks basically collecting donations, and I would just drive, like every day I'd get a call, and I was like all over Facebook, and I'd get a call, and I'd go to different places on in Denver, and I'd go to different places in Denver, pick up the donations. Like my living room was stacked in donations, my basement was stacked in donations, and then I was also like putting myself out there on all these ride shares. Like, so Colorado had quite a few ride shares and everything. So I was I was basically thumbing it every time. I only drove up one time myself, and the rest of the time I was hitchhiking, essentially, like just meeting random people. Like, hey, I'm from Standing Rock. I can help you get there. I can introduce you. I can be your like cultural host. And like I was putting myself out there, and I managed to to meet some amazing people who just wanted to come and help. And so that's what I did. Like Friday, immediately after work, I'd meet whoever I was driving up with. I'd load as many donations as I could, and get up to camp. And so like I'm saying that all because like I wasn't there like all the time. I was tapping in like basically almost every weekend. And while the few times that I was there, or like the short spurts that I was there, I was able to to get a feel for what was happening. I'd go and just check on my loved ones. Like I needed to like you're okay, like I physically just needed to know.
So like in our family alone, we had 76 relatives arrested, and that's just in our family. That's our uncles, our cousins, our aunties. They were all arrested for standing up for clean water. And that was just from our family throughout Lakota, Dakota country. And following their cases is really hard. And realizing that these injustices are still occurring. And that's why, like, as I remember the first time I did my clip specifically for the Baha'i community, it was the day before the dog attacks. And I ran into Joy at Prairie Night 16. I remember that. And I was just like, what do you think about me reaching out to the Baha'is? And she was like, do it. And I was just like, okay. And where we were camped at, they were messing with the frequencies, so we kept losing service. So it didn't matter if you had AT&T or Verizon, they would just cut everything. So you wouldn't have nothing. You would go from all bars to nothing. And they would drain your phone battery, and like any manipulation possible they did to us. And so I had to run over to the casino, and I started looking up quotes on the Baha'i community, and that the one that really struck with me the most was if we're going to bring harmony and peace to the world, we need to have justice. And that's the one that really struck with me the most. We're going to bring harmony and peace to the world, and we have to have justice. And
I know, we're all like
I know, we're all sitting there, boo-boos and crying and tears and snot coming out of our nose.
So that clip alone got over 29,000 views. Where we called out specifically to the world in the Baha'i community and requesting prayers and standing in solidarity with us, and recognizing that we were 100% unarmed, that we were on our land that belongs to us, and we were there to protect water, a basic human need. And so that quote always stuck with me throughout the whole movement. If we are going to bring peace and harmony to the world, we need to have justice. And that's, like I said, like Camp Bra opened up doors that we never had these discussions before, and we have to figure out how are we actually going to bring balance to men and women equality, and how are we going to bring balance to the subtle racism that each of us carry, and then how are we going to bring balance to all of it. And it was just like camp was like it ripped off this band-aid of 200 years of oppression for us, but I couldn't imagine how much that band-aid was ripped off for, like, the Black community that came in to stand with us, or the Israelites that came and stood with us, or the Palestinians also came too. Even the Bundy crew, that cracks me up.
I know, even the Bundy crew came. I remember sitting down and at the fire at Ocheti, and I had Jews on one side, Palestinians. I had somebody from Iraq, somebody from Iran. I had people from Africa sitting around. There was a couple of Baha'is. There was all these different people, natives standing around. I just looked around and I just thought to myself, this is what it's going to look like. Because we think about that as Baha'is. We've been to World Congress. We've been to different things as Baha'is. But, not everybody is going to declare themselves Baha'i. But we are going to help bring world peace. And so I looked around and hearing the songs and just thinking to myself, this is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to sound like. Mm-hmm. Whoa, man, that was like intense.
It was. Yeah, so I was tapping in and out. And what was really cool, especially at the beginning, what was really cool is every time a new tribe arrived or another tribe like came to take a stand, they would walk in. And you would see like everyone in camp would like rush to them. We read all like Keisha and Lee, Keisha, like the sound the men make and the sound the women make, it's kind of like, so, like we all. But you
holler
all through camp. You hear it all through camp, and everyone basically would like rush up there, and we'd greet each other, and they would come in and they would sing their songs in their language or their culture, and then they'd come to the fire right up there by Flag Road. They'd come to the fire, and we always gave them space to tell their story. And for me, like as an indigenous Baha'i, as a native Baha'i, reading, like hearing all of this, I was pretty blown away. And I've written about this on that page, but I was really blown away because literally every single tribe, and there were 700 and how many?
748 tribes.
748 tribes that came, and every single tribe, every single indigenous group that came from all parts of the globe, every single indigenous group that came, they all spoke of their manifestation of God that came to them. They all spoke of their prophecies. They all told their stories, and they all talked about the time of right now. A time when like people would come together, but it would also be a time of great calamity. And if you look around, you see it's happening. So I've been a Baha'i since I was 15, and I grew up reading. I went to Maxwell Baha'i School. I did my year of service at the World Center. Like she said, we went to World Congress as a family. So I've been around for a little while, and I've read God Passes By. I've read Advent of Divine Justice. I've read Secret of Divine Civilization. I've read these books. So
prior to camp.
Oh yeah, like I'm talking about like the whole of my life. I've read these books. So I'm hearing these stories, and as a native Baha'i, all I could think, like all I like, and all that's been on the tip of my, you know, like my, I don't know how to say, I'm like getting overwhelmed with emotion.
But everything just clicked into place. Like all the indigenous stories that each 748 tribes had brought, and plus being Baha'i, and then our own stories as Lakota Dakota people, like everything clicked, and that time of change is now. The Aztecs predicted it, the Hopis predicted it. There's all these stories that have been coming forth, and that they always. I like the way the Incas described it. They said the lifting of the veil. Remember that in 2012? They said 2012 was going to be the lifting of the veil, and it was going to be a new era. And that time is now.
It is. It really is. You know, like, so I, you know, I was witnessing this, and so that's why, like, a lot of times, like, I'll write things with real urgency, or I'll say things with real urgency, because I with my whole being, I don't, we don't have time to be complacent, you all. We don't have time to be complacent. It's happening now. Like, we were the first to be impacted, you know, like, and again, like for me, like it's kind of blown me away that, you know, that quote, should these Indians be educated and properly guided, there can be no doubt they will become illumined, that they will illumine the whole earth.
The whole world, yeah.
So, like, you know, like I kept thinking of that quote, and it was like moving, you know, like going on repeat through my head. And I was like, holy crap, how is this happening at my doorstep? Like, what the hell? Like, how is this happening at my doorstep? Like, we're just like some mushika, like in Lakota, that means like pitiful, or just, we're just pitiful people, you know, like, all, you know, and I say that because like the people who were there, the people who were boots in the ground, like the community, like, you know, we're still in the same situation that we were before it all started. You know, like you'll see like these people who are promoting themselves and who are making money off of this movement and everything. And, you know, like there are people who have made millions off of no DAPL, and that wasn't us.
That wasn't us.
That wasn't us. We're still like scrambling for gas money.
Yeah.
Can I get a ride?
I know, and I'm still running a camp, and so we're all still trying to get wood and gas and everything. You know, we don't have anything. So I don't have no GoFundMe's or anything like that.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that to like, you know, to elicit like sympathy or like, oh, I feel bad for you, but just to express that you know, it was, we stood because we cared.
No,
like,
we are ordinary people. Like, we are extremely ordinary people. We have families to take care of. We have children to raise. We have grandbabies. And you can be very much active in your own life and still carry out your personal deeds at the same time. And that balance is really hard to find. And it was really hard for me to find. And I personally am still searching for it. But it is doable. And I know it's doable because you look at Joy, and you look at Dallas, and you look at Holyoke, and our Dallas Gold Tooth, Holyoke Lafferty, and then our cousin sister Joye Braun. And then, you know, you look at them and you can realize that there is a balance. You just got to find it in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is like people always say things about me, but it's never just me. It's my husband. It's my 2 adult children and my niece, and even my grandkids, because my grandkids came up and stayed in camp. They came to Sacred Stone, and they came to Ocheti, because I camped in Sacred Stone. Those that don't know, me and my other cousin Wiaka, we were the first campers at Sacred Stone, and then I moved over to Ocheti. But it's always the whole family, because that's how we are. Like, look at my cousin's right there. This is all family. But there's a quote, and it's a quote from Abdu'l-Baha. And among the teachings of Baha'u'llah are justice and right, Until these are realized on the plane of existence, all things shall be in disorder and remain imperfect. The world of mankind is the world of oppression and cruelty, in the realm of aggression and error. And you know what? Even when you got that aggression and you got those errors coming at you, and you got these big oil monsters, or uranium mines, or gold mining, or fracking, or whatever it is, big giant cow farms, whatever it is, you can stand up. I always say this, within 200 miles of wherever you live here in so-called America, you're going to find a water fight. And water is truly a unifying force. If you get sick, what do the doctors tell you to do? They say drink more liquids. If you're upset, you give somebody a glass of water, they start calming down. It's that first medicine. So we have to protect our water. And without standing up and protecting what is sacred, and if you read the writings, it will tell you that those things in the environment, water and the land, those are sacred. As Indigenous people, we know that already. We know that. But if you need to read it in the writings, go read it in the writings, because it's there. A lot of our teachings as Indigenous people are there in the writings. You just have to look and read it. That doesn't mean you get to go out and be a wannabe Indian.
Right. No.
Or that you get to come and be a hippie and try to be the savior hippie. Because honestly, if you show up in front of me as a wannabe or a savior hippie, you're going to get the great historical joy tongue lashing, which is horrible to get.
I do the same also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be a come lately either. Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Come latelys are the ones who, I found out I have some native. I did a DNA test.
Yeah, I know. I did 23andMe.
Yeah. Hey, Dwale.
So according to that, I'm Scottish.
No, but I mean, like, in saying that, we want to emphasize that everybody is indigenous to some place in this earth.
Yep.
So it's up to you to find out where you're indigenous to and take up the fight wherever you are. You know, that's because, like she said, it's everywhere. there's things to do everywhere. Like I remember people say, like, reaching out to me and saying, "Oh, I can't get there, you know, so I'm sorry, I can't do anything," or things like that. And I was like, there's all you have to do is look, and there's Mother Earth is under attack. I mean, it's literally up to the Baha'is at this point. Like, it's up to anyone who will stand up, not just the Baha'is, but anyone who will stand up and take a stand. And I'm not just talking about the environment, I'm talking about racism. I'm talking about social injustice. I'm talking about, like, there's this whole campaign for Take a Knee. I mean, that's happening everywhere. Like, everywhere. There's things like.
And as Baha'is, you can take our teachings like consultation. If you don't know what consultation is, then go to the writings and study it, because you can take our perspective of consultation and take that into that fight. Because as you do that, you're teaching other people a different way of living and thinking. And that's powerful. That's powerful. That is teaching the faith. You're not saying be a Baha'i, but you're taking the teachings and you're teaching other people. There's so many things you can do, because, a lot of times as Baha'is, we think to ourselves, oh, we're told we can't stand up and be political. That's divisive. No, you can't be partisan. It doesn't mean you don't stand up for right. Stand up for the injustices against the world. There's a lot of injustices, and you can do that. It just means don't be partisan. So don't try to force that down my throat, because I'll bring out all kinds of writings for you.
I really agree that you have to be proactive in where you are at. And that environmental genocide is very much real and that we are affected by it everywhere. But we have a lot of social restructure that we have to do. And one of the things is like the murdered and missing women. Right now I'm helping with that on that case right now. And it was really hard to like call up my cousin, Siobhan Roundtree of Wakpala. And, I was just like, I have a reporter coming in and he asked me to get him in contact with everybody. And she stepped up. She said, yeah, I'll talk about my sister. And she's one of the murdered and missing. She's from Wakpala, but we found her in Cheyenne River in 2012. And then I reached out to another one of our cousins who his mother was actually beaten and raped in Mobridge, South Dakota. And he wasn't ready to talk about her. So we have all these social structures that we really need to rebuild. And while we're like, we have to take on environmental genocide, but we also have to rebuild our social structure. And then we have to have these uncomfortable conversations about women and women equality, and then the protection of our women and of our men, and then having these open dialogues about like racism and white privilege, white fragility, white tears, and my whole point is like, because I'm Indigenous, it is not my responsibility to call out other non-natives. It's non-natives that have to start calling out other non-natives. So
I don't have to be your teacher on everything.
Right.
I don't have to.
No.
It's up to you guys to start learning those things. I don't have to sit there and hold your hand and wipe your right fragile tears out of your eyes and say, oh, it's going to be okay. Wale.
That's true, though.
Not me.
It's not okay for us. Like, it's not okay. I mean, my sister touched on missing and murdered women. And that's real. That's real. Some of my earliest memories. I have a cousin in Alaska who was, she was beaten to death. And I remember that funeral. Sorry, I sometimes I smile inappropriately when I'm nervous. But I remember that. And I remember, the when she was talking about, I remember when that happened too. That woman was it's a pretty horrific story, but she was dragged through our adjoining community in the back of a car. So I've heard these stories my whole life of women I knew, like just disappearing off the face of the map, just gone, or attending funerals of people I knew. So this, like, for us, this is real. And the fact that so few people put any, talk about it or shed any light, because on my Facebook newsfeed, I literally only see Native people talking about it. I literally only see Native people talking about the fact that Native people have the highest murder rate by police of all demographics. Native women, are being targeted left and right. And I only see Native people talking about that. And like, for me, like my life, I've experienced police brutality. Like even before the No DAPL camp, I've experienced police brutality where I didn't know if I was gonna live by the end of that police stop. I didn't know if, where you're sitting in absolute fear. Do I run? If I could get shot if I run. Do I just stay here? I could get shot if I just stay here. Do I fight back? I could get shot if I fight back. So you just, what do you do? So I've experienced that. I know what that's like. It's like utter terror. It's terror. And, so for us, these aren't things that happen to other people. This is our reality. This is something we experience all the time. Every time I go to Mobridge, I almost have a panic attack because I get harassed. The police have my car marked. They follow me, like it's real. This is not something that's, I don't just sit on my news feed and just oh, that's terrible, I'm gonna post that. Like, I post because I want people to know, and I keep hoping, and I keep hoping that other people will take this up, because there's media silence. We get zero. Like, another woman just last weekend was pregnant woman was murdered by police, and there's been nothing. I only saw one of my friends post about it. Other than that, it's only been natives posting about it. And so these, like these things keep happening to us, and it's only us talking about it. And it's, I don't know. I don't know how to express like that frustration.
But I mean, that's why there is an alliance between like No DAPL and Native Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter and the Brown Berets and like all these small indigenous groups are coming together and saying, hey, we are going to stand in solidarity. We are going to tell your story. And while we're telling their story, but we really do need to have all of these discussions. And as uncomfortable as it makes people, we need to hash through it if we really want to change our world. But if we really want to have a world for our children, like what kind of world do you want for your children? So do you want your children to pick up what you didn't do? Or are you going to leave that burden on them? I mean, that's the point we are at. That's exactly where we are at in these social structures. And, like I'm always protecting our two-spirit relatives because, I personally really love them. They give me a lot of empowerment. And they're always attracted to me. I can go any powwow and you'll see a two-spirit beside me. And if I'm on a hand game team, I can guarantee you there's one in my So my whole point is like, we need to do it as adults because my grandmother was saying the exact same things that me and my sister are talking about. And then her mother was talking about that. And then our grandfather was talking about it then. And I really don't want to leave this burden on my children. And so that's why I much rather have this pathway that we are building be uncomfortable. And I much rather take the brunt of that than to allow my children to have that discomfort. So
exactly. And you look in your grandchildren's eyes and tell them that you didn't stand up enough. I can't look in those babies' eyes and say, sorry, I didn't feel up to it today. I didn't think it was worthy of me today. No, I can't do that. And
so we have like half an hour left. I know we wanted to open it up to questions. So, and we can see your, I haven't been reading them.
Movie Wind River.
It's bringing it to mainstream.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Finally. I can't watch that movie. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. Duran did, my son, and he said it was really good, but I haven't got the gumption to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, all of those like No DAPL movies. I saw Wake, and it's on Netflix. I saw that, and I spent the next 24 hours pretty triggered and like trying to calm myself down. So
yeah,
we're still working through quite a bit here. So.
Yeah, we are. I mean, my dad called me about 3 nights ago. I was still in Milwaukee, and Dad is he did 3 tours in Vietnam, and he was just calling to check on me because what he said is, my sister, she did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He said, yeah, she's pretty much PTSD. He goes, but I calling to check on you. It was really powerful to have that recognition that I also have that. And then he was checking on my daughter, Morgan, because she came up to the front lines with us too. A lot of times you'll see live feeds from before, and I'm not actually holding the phone, but she is. So she went full force in with me every time she was there with me. And but yeah, it's really hard to watch those things.
Yeah.
I saw that clip for Unicorn Riot.
Yeah.
And October 27th is coming up, and I'm just dreading that day like crazy. I've really been having a hard time sleeping and everything. But for those who don't know, on October 24th of last year, we moved into right in front of the path of Dakota Access. We always had a camp there. We always had a little camp there. We moved in onto the land that Dakota Access Energy Transfer Partners bought. And it was called Treaty Camp. And we put my teepees up, 2 of my teepees up. Pretty soon other people started coming in. That was really powerful because they had already done so much damage, bulldozed our ancestors, bulldozed sacred sites, burial grounds right in front of us, really hard. And we had to do something extreme. And so that's what we did. And then on the 27th, October 27th of last year, they came in. Goose stepped in like Nazis. That's what they did. Hey, there's a question. Kimimila, you said you wrote about the indigenous stories you heard in Standing Rock. Are those writings still posted for us to read?
Oh yeah, you just do a search for my name, or you could you probably could do a search for no DAPL, and it would show up.
And then there's another question. I don't have a question right now. I am just breathless and feeling full of gratitude for you all. I want everyone I know to see and hear this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's from Nika. I can't say your last name, Nika.
Oh,
thank you.
She was at the she came out when we had those camps in 1990.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then I probably met her. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, Albert was with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you all written these stories down in a book?
There's another question. Have you all written these stories down in a book?
No, we're documenting right now. Hey.
Documenting. I'm working on a book about camps, about setting up camps and organizing camps. I'm working on a pamphlet. I started to try to write some of my experiences, and quite honestly, it triggered the heck out of me, and I couldn't sleep for 2 or 3 days, and I ended up curled up in a ball in my bed, crying, and it was just really too hard.
Yeah, so it's like for me, for about October 27th was hell for me, and I was in Denver then, and and then like a week and a half later, November 5th through the 12th, it kind of spiraled out of control. And I'm just saying this so maybe like if you have a similar experience. So I was never on the front line. Like I was literally never on the front line. But every person in my family was. And I would be at home and kind of like what we have right here, like it's multi-screen. I'd have every live feed up on my screen. And I'd just be like sitting there like, you know, like looking at like when I hear everyone talking, I mean, I know I physically wasn't there, but a lot of times I can picture exactly what image was happening. And, you know, and I know that land, this is my home. So I knew exactly where these events were taking place. I could picture it. And so I would just sit and scour all the live feeds. Like I'd have 4 or 5 live feeds up and I just sit and scour them trying to find my family. And so what happened was I kind of spiraled out of control and I ended up missing a week of work. And I didn't know what was happening to me at that point. And I just couldn't pull it together. And I'm a teacher and I couldn't like contain myself to go and, you know, be in front of my students all day. And I just kept calling in sick, And so I got help. And I found out that I had something called secondary PTSD, and that was when I first learned about that. I had no clue about that. And so, the guy I got help from he was a veteran, and he was a counselor, and he he sat and listened to me, and that's what he said. He said, you have secondary PTSD, and he said Army wives are prone to this. He said, so what happens is the people who are actually there, they're going through it, and then like when it's over for them, and they, a lot of times like their adrenaline shuts down and they go to sleep. I'm not saying that they're not affected by it any means, but their adrenaline shuts down and they go to sleep. Whereas the person on the other end, they're still going. So like for me, I'd be like frantically calling, frantically messaging, and I'd go for like 24 hours before hearing from anybody. And my family, being who they are, they thought they were like, helping me out by not getting in touch. So that's when I found out that I was actually, just like in that sustained period of not knowing and having no idea and not knowing if my family members were alive, if my family members were in jail. And that's why, like I feel like I was like in this mission of love, like just to drive 1,400 miles every weekend. Like Friday to Sunday, I was driving 1,400 miles every weekend just to come home and see. And that, but in that time period, I ended up with what you call secondary PTSD, and it's not very different from first time PTSD. It's same. So if it, like if you've ever experienced any kind of trauma, or you have a family member who's gone through that, it's something to learn about. It's something, because otherwise you feel like you're going crazy. You don't know what's happening to you. So I don't know why I went on that.
A lot of times I didn't feel things till long after we were after the eviction, because that adrenaline stays with you. And I was only getting 2, maybe 3 hours of sleep a night. And, I'd get up early in the morning. And of course, you're up half the night anyway, trying to keep the stupid stoves going because you're cold. And, minus 40 degrees and the wind chill and everything's happening. But it didn't really hit me until much later. And I'm still getting hit as these anniversaries come up. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we're getting ready for KXL. Keystone XL. And so there's a lot of things, somebody said, keep your hearts. Guard your hearts. We need them. Don't worry. My heart's guarded, but that doesn't mean that you still don't feel. As Lakota, Ducko, as Indigenous people, we feel. We're not afraid to show our emotions. We're not afraid to take on those things because we have no choice. That's our life. Mm-hmm. There's all these things around us. There's meth, drug addiction, and missing and murdered women, and sexual abuse, and our children abuse. There's youth suicide. We deal with these really harsh things every single day, but we have to. But yeah, it's still coming at us. Do we have any more questions from people? Rachel Hoff asked, I wish I was there to give you all hugs. I followed No DAPL from as soon as I heard about it. You guys are the fulfillment of Abdu'l-Baha's prophecies. I'm astounded at all the stuff you went through, are going through. I love you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel.
Gee, these aren't popping up as fast on mine.
I got faster internet than you.
Probably do.
Plus, I got Morgan helping me. Every once in a while, you'll see a strange hand. A floating hand.
I just wanted to put a plug in that we're crowdsourcing an honorarium for these amazing women. And I just sent the link to everyone so you can contribute there, and then Kimimila will share it with everyone.
So I'll tell you guys a story. So that first week at Sacred Stone, like I said, it was me and Wiaka. Well, that first day there was Lorenzo from Unicorn Riot was there too. But that first week we were there, and Wiaka took off with Damien and them, and went back to Cannonball to spend the night because he didn't have a heater in his tent. And I had my teepee, so I had a fire pit. But I was running out of wood, so I went outside to go grab some wood. And all I heard was this growl. And I turned around and there was this bobcat, this cougar right there. So I slowly backed off. Not you, the real cougar. And I just slowly backed off and I got into my car. And that cougar sat right there in front of the car for about an hour before it slowly lumbered off. That was before all the people showed up.
Gee, I hadn't heard that story. Holy.
I called Gary from us fighting Keystone XL, and I was telling him there's this cougar. So he said, did you sing to it or did it give you a song? I ain't singing to no cougar.
Joy, you mentioned to me once that you kind of based off like your strategy off the Dawnbreakers.
Mm-hmm.
Could you share a little bit about that? I thought it was amazing.
So when a camp was decided by the communities up there, I had been driving back and forth from Eagle Butte with some of the youth here from Cheyenne River. And I came home and I was just sitting here thinking to myself, how are we going to do this? I mean, I knew what Potato Spy had done with Keystone XL. I knew what Shield the People had done again with Keystone XL and the Lower Brule Camp, but we weren't. This was way later. This is Standing Rock, and it was like the 11th hour. We were trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and so I picked up the Dawnbreakers, and because there's a real connection between us as Indigenous Baha'is and our brethren over in Iran. And so I started reading the Dawnbreakers again and started going through some of the different, things that they went through. And so I said, well, we need to start looking at some of the strategies that are here in the Dawnbreakers, because they did have camps. The Baha'is, they had camps. They had these forts. Of course, one of the biggest known is Fort Tabarsi, but they had camps. And, you look into our history and you go, it's Baha'i history. Wait a second, this is really camps. Only I can't pick up weapons. And I knew that the army was probably going to try to pick up weapons on us. So I did. I looked at the Dawnbreakers to try to figure, and every time I got stuck when we were trying to figure out what could we do that's another nonviolent direct action, I would pick up the Dawnbreakers. And I would start reading through that, and then I'd go to our strategy meetings and start visiting with people. But that doesn't make me a jihadist.
Right.
So the Army Corps of Engineers was about a month ago. I was down in Winnebago. They were trying to tell people I needed to be thrown in jail because I was a jihadist. I was like, hey, no jihadist. There's no jihad in Baha'i.
Right.
More questions?
I don't know. I saw it moving.
No more open questions.
Hey, Chaitu?
No, that will end at the hearts are on the ground.
I feel like unless there's any more questions, we're good, huh?
Good. Waniya needs to tell me where she got her earrings.
So these earrings came from Savannah Flute in Sisseton area, and she made them by hand, and they're long.
Yeah, I know. I really like them. They're really long.
Pretty. So it's just
She's always wearing cool earrings. That one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, unless there's any more questions, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. And then for those of you who've donated, thank you very much. That's awesome. That's gas money. So we can go to our next action. Hey. But more than likely, that's exactly what it will be.
Oh, here's some more questions. So we can find this recorded. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love your earrings too. That's from Nika. Yeah, it'll be on YouTube. And from Allison, I just want to say thank you, and I love you all. Well, thank you, Allison.
Yeah,
Allison.
We love you guys too. We're still praying. We still go to the river. I know all of us go to the river, and all of us pray. And the camp here on Cheyenne River, we'll put all of you guys in our prayers here on Cheyenne River as we still stand up against DAPL. We're still fighting. Never forget that. We haven't. We're still fighting. It's still in the court system. We haven't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. So we did win on 3 points in the federal system. Unfortunately, the judge decided to continue to let the oil flow through. But it's huge that we won on 3 points. So we're going to keep fighting until we can shut it down and can get it removed. And it can happen because in Oklahoma, a judge told a company that they needed to shut down and remove this pipeline on a reservation. And that just happened last week. So it is still possible. So we're still fighting Dakota Access. And like I said, we're going into Keystone XL. But look where you live. Look around where you live. You're going to find some kind of water fight. Big industrial cow farms or pig farms, uranium, gold mining, rare earth mining. You're going to find mountaintop removal, coal ash, coal mining. You're going to find fracking, pipelines. You're going to find something. Stand up, meet other people, go out. This is an awesome way to meet other people and get out of your your community. As Baha'is, we're challenged. We're challenged to move beyond outside of our little boxes and our little safe zones. As a Baha'i, you should be going out and meeting new people. And what better way to do it than to stand up for water and to protect Minnie? So I thank all of you.
They're the ones that are awake. They're the ones that are already like standing up and taking action. So those are the people we need.
Those are the people you want to meet. Those are the ones that are already there. So get to meet them. They're good people. Most of them anyway. They're good people.
Hey, we have a question. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
We have a question from a 4-year-old who's listening.
Okay.
And she's asking, what is justice? Like, what does justice look like to you?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a deep, really deep. And Joy, you can take the lead.
Well,
and then I'll go next.
Justice to me looks like clean, clear water. That's what justice looks like to me. Because when somebody does something wrong or mean, it can pollute that water. But if we're kind to one another and we care about each other and we love each other and we protect that water, it stays clean, it stays pure. So justice to me looks like clean, pure water.
Yeah. So as Lakotas, we believe the core of our belief is mitakue oyasi. It means we are all related, but like for us, that's everything. Like we're related to each other. Like every person is a relative. We're related to the sky beings. We come from the stars, so we're related to we're related to the sky beings, the star people. We're related to everything on this earth, the four-legged, the two-legged. We're related to everything in the water. We're related to everything on the land. Like literally, those are our relatives. And when you see somebody in your family being mistreated, that's when you take a stand. That's when you stand up and you take care of them. You protect them. You do whatever you can to protect them. And that doesn't matter if they're a person, doesn't matter if it's an animal, doesn't matter if it's the land, doesn't matter if it's the water. You stand up, and that's justice. That's justice. Treating everything in this creation, because everything it's all connected. We believe in one creator, and this creation is from one creator. So of course it's connected. There is no disconnect. So you stand up. You stand up and you treat your relatives good. You treat your relatives like family. That you're connected. There's no disconnect. That's justice.
So for me, justice is where we can all live without distress, and to have fairness and honesty, and just carrying all those moralities that we need, like all the morals and behaviors on a daily basis, and not living in distress. Like I shouldn't be in fear of letting my 17-year-old son go to Rapid City for being shot for being Native American in Rapid City, South Dakota. That's a real fear of mine. Or allowing my daughter to walk to the grocery store because of the murdered and missing women that occur in South Dakota. That's a real fear of mine. So I think when we can live in these we can live without distress.
It's four.
Bad question. It's 4.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
There's the thing there. It says the big divest next week. I just want to put out a shout. One of the things that you absolutely can do is divest. So divestment means going to, the banks and pull out of Wells Fargo, pull out of Morgan Stanley. Look at your local spiritual assemblies. Are they invested in any of these are using Wells Fargo or US Bank or these other banks that are investing in oil? And it's not our other extreme energy extraction things. In Brazil next week, there's I think 97 world banks that are meeting, and we're definitely sending a message to them in Brazil. But you can divest, take your money out, put it local, check with your spiritual assemblies, see if if they're using these banks or if they're invested in them, and pull out. They froze. Kimmy froze. You still there, Hussein?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so Kimmy and them, they froze.
Yeah, they frozen.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Yeah. And then Andrea said, thank you so much for your courage, your dedication. You're incredible role models for all of us. Love you all. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. We really couldn't have done any of this without the prayers of everybody. And, we were told that to take the cry of Mini Wichoni to the rest of the world. So with that, everybody, I thank each and every one of you. Remember, you can divest. Check with your spiritual assemblies. See if they're investing or using Wells Fargo, US Bank, Bank of America is another big one. Check Morgan Stanley, So check, make sure that they're not using those. If they are, request that they stop, because it's ecological genocide that's going on, not just here in the United States or so-called Canada, but also with like the Sariaku and the Amazon and tribes in Brazil and in Africa. So it's really important that we as Baha'is be cognizant of where we are putting our money and what that money is doing.
All right.
Anything else? Recently, our LSA asked the Office of Public Affairs regarding or making a public statement regarding a white supremacist. Has anyone talked with National about a public statement or with the Office of Public Affairs regarding this? I honestly don't know, Carol. I would suggest that your LSA contact your regional Baha'i Council or National Spiritual Assembly and ask them yourself about what about these white supremacists. We know that the best way to deal with racism and hate is with love, and to try to bring about the discourse about racial unity, and to really find ways to do that in a good, powerful way. So I would suggest that your LSA contact National itself.
Thank you very much.
Carol Campbell said thank you. Well, thank you, Carol.
All right, should we go ahead and end it?
I think we should. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Hussein.
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody watching. Mini Wichoni.
Mini Wichoni.
Mini Wichoni.
Mini Wichoni.
And not mini chonies either. No.
All right. Thanks, Joy.
All right.
Hope. Blami.